Hi guys, I'm back again with another reaction video. This time it's going to be a reaction video to poker. I do play a little bit of poker here and there. This should be quite an interesting one. This is the Triton Million episode 1. This was a £1 million buy-in. There was 3 other million, well, they weren't £1 million, but the $1 million buy-in tournaments before that. The one drop was in 2012, 2014, 2018 at the World Series. But this is being billed as the biggest tournament in poker history, and I guess it would be because the currency value £1 million being, you know, more. Well, yeah, I suppose actually, well, dollars is actually worth more than pounds, wouldn't it be in that way? But I mean, there's still it was being billed as the biggest poker tournament in history. This was back in 2019, August 2019 time. There were 54 entrants, 11 made the money. This was held in London. This was quite an interesting. I remember watching some of this back at the time on the live stream with Triton. So I'm going to get into this. This is the very start of the tournament, and there was a whole episode. So I'm not going to watch all of it, but I'll react to a good chunk of it. So I'm going to get into it right now. So here we go. Triton Million, episode 1.
This will be a very big moment. I mean, this is literally the biggest poker tournament that's ever happened.
The reason this tournament's so unique is a lot of the biggest high rollers in the world either pop up somewhere in Asia, say like Manila, there'll be a giant Triton, or Vegas will have the $1 million buy-in one drop.
I like to play Macau as well, big cash
put
games.
Their efforts together, and now we're seeing what can happen when they do join up. This is the biggest super high roller tournament in the history of the world, and that's the main reason why.
Amazing mobile deals.
Stupid adverts, but it is a big thing. It does get you pumped up when you're following poker. Yes, okay, you get a lot of the recreational guys, the business guys playing that maybe aren't as skilled as the pros. But again, ultimately it comes down to poker. It's how much money you're going to make, how much money you're going to get into your roll, your bankroll, your bank account. So these big tournaments are the big deal, and you've got to be playing your best poker.
The best players in the world aren't necessarily playing mid-stakes or low-stakes. They're playing the highest game in the room.
I haven't played many tournaments the last few years, but I couldn't miss this one.
So this tournament is like, people have asked me, like my parents, how do you feel? Are you excited? And I tried best to describe it to them, actually. I said it's almost like a World Cup final. Like, it's something that you could never dream of as a kid.
It's going to be the biggest day of gambling.
I think very few pros would have had all their action. They're not putting up $1 million of their own money.
The way I rank myself against other players for my whole career.
Not even all the businessmen necessarily would have had all their action.
In something like this.
Most of them probably though, but
never have before. Likely never will again. It is just going to be such a unique experience.
How would it feel to win this? That's probably going to be the greatest feeling in poker history.
You want to win this high roller tournament, you're going to have to get through me if you want to do it.
Winning a freeze-out.
Bonham had a hell of a year before that, 2018. He was killing it.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Indeed it does not, Mr. Petrangelo. Welcome, one and all, to the Hilton on Park Lane in London, one of the most multicultural cities in the world. And
do an excellent job, Triton. Great production quality. Really good.
Come from all over, each having paid £1 million to compete in the richest poker tournament in history. Ali Nishad alongside Daniel Negreanu. And Daniel, what an incredible event we have on our hands here.
This has never happened in the history of poker, where an event, especially of this magnitude, separates the pros and the non-pros. I'm super excited to see how that plays out, especially...
See, these episodes came out in 2021. I don't know if they were doing this commentating at the time or just after it. Negreanu, and there's a guy, Ali Nejad. I'm not sure. Maybe it was around the time of 2021 they started doing commentary of this. I don't recall the Granny doing the commentary at the time, but I'm gonna just forward it a little bit, and we'll react to some of the hands. So here we go.
Professional side of the spectrum. Blinds are at 1,500 and 3,000 with a 3K ante. Everyone starting with 1 million in chips, and Timofey Kuznetsov, true teller, starting with a limp, sitting on king queen offsuit.
Well, very interesting there, because most literature you read is going to tell you, hey, when you play poker, you got to raise or fold. And I would adhere to that unless you are...
Yeah, limping's very much the old school way, right?
Who has a good feel in terms of...
It's one thing if you're trapping with aces, but king, queen offsuit, early position, limping, I don't know.
You know, adding limps into his range of hands.
Chan Wai Leong with the ace-8 suited, thinning the field behind with a raise to 11,000, which Kuznetsov calls, and they get a look at an ace-king 7 rainbow flop. Top pair for Chan Wai, and for Timofey, second pair.
Well, obviously, Chan Wai in the lead here with an ace would be very difficult for Kuznetsov to get away from it here, flopping second pair. With
so they're super deep stack to the early part of the tournament as well.
A relatively small bet.
Action on the Russian after a c-bet of 12,000, which of course he will call and take a peek at the turn, which is an 8, now giving Leong 2 pair, aces and 8s.
Well, that's a really big card for Leong here because, you know, if he was up against ace-10 or ace-jack, he's just improved, so he's going to want to get value against those hands. Obviously, if he knew Kuznetsov had a hand like king-queen, he might want to
True teller fold, or is he going to give it up?
Along.
32,500 into 53, the number he came with on the turn.
Smile indicates to me he must know now he's got an ace. And he folds.
Yeah. That bet, he could potentially
Let's go ahead a little bit.
With the ace-king, 4 bets to 100K, 10%.
So Raj Kumar, free bet, 35,877 suit.
Is sort of putting pressure.
Elton Tazan to 100,000, 4 bet.
Pretty well post-flop.
8-7 hearts is a pretty hand.
Position players is going to look to possibly win it before the flop or get more money in.
Whoa.
Wow, what a flop!
Oh my! Jack 9 deuce with 2 diamonds, giving Raj Kumar
What a
the
flop for Raj Kumar.
flush draw. Saying with just 2 overs, backdoor nut diamonds, and Duan with the overpair and 2 checks in front of him. 303,000 in the pot already.
A chat back.
Oh, and some kerosene added to the fire here.
With the 4 bet from Elton, does Duan have Elton on kings? Does he have him on kings or aces, and that's why he chat back?
With the queen high flush draw on the overpair.
Or you just didn't want to blow up the pot?
Elton and Duan. Elton can't
Hence the
fold
chat
here
back.
with the ace of diamonds. Duan has an overpair with a diamond. What?
That didn't just happen.
That is shocking that he would fold there with 2 overcards and the ace of diamonds. He didn't take much time to do so. Now for Tom, he's going to be in a pickle here.
Fairly big bet, early stage of the tournament. I can understand Elton in a way folding.
Trying to get a read on his buddy.
I'm still trying to find out what Elton Sang was thinking, folding the ace of diamonds in this spot. Obviously correct.
I think most players would have called there for sure.
And speaking of calls, that's what Tom Duan is forced to do. A fold, a mistake, and a raise, an even bigger one. So another 420,000 into the middle. Now the
Well, the Elton call, that would have been tough for him to get away from with the ace on the river.
For Tom Duan, because if he was up against a hand like ace-king or ace-queen with a diamond, you know, he can fold now because there's very few bluffs that Vivek could have.
350K the sizing, and you can see Duan uncomfortable.
Wasn't that familiar with Raj Kumar before this tournament at the time?
Clubs.
Well, obviously he went out. He
did
did go on and do pretty well, did he?
But looks like he's using a time bank or 2 here.
Yeah, you may have noticed that LED cube there on the table, a dynamic shot clock, which varies street to street.
Trying to find a hand that you can beat here is difficult because you were 3-bet from the small blind.
Tough spot to be in, but yeah, gotta fold it. Gotta fold it. Let's go ahead a little bit to some more hands.
An under the gun min raise out of
So
King
Rob
Queen
Young,
for Rob Young, a flat from
Kucernik,
Sukernik's Jack 10,
both
and
business moguls,
Winfred
casino
Hughes, a
owners.
suited connector.
Winfred Rao, I believe he's a
Now,
casino
Aaron
owner
Zhang
too.
out of the small blind with the
These
squeeze
are
to
all the
50K.
business guys are playing one
Very
another.
aggressive play here, taking advantage of maybe a read on Yang being weak. And typically when you have a couple people call a raise, they're not all that strong. So these plays are very effective if you can get them by the very first raiser, which he has.
Got to pick your spots to be really aggressive.
Leon is coming with the Jack 10.
Yeah, Sukernik is not a guy who is easily intimidated at the poker table. No doubt about that, and he'll take this flop in position, but not connect with the 7-6 tray 2 club flop. However, Aaron Zhang doesn't connect either.
This is a good example here of the power of aggression pre-flop in this spot. Zhang being the pre-flop aggressor, he's going to take the lead on this flop, and if Leon doesn't hit, he picks it up. Now, if Leon does call, he's got a lot of decisions to make on the turn, depending what rolls off.
Good size bet
Leon
to
would certainly
put him
be
off
in
the hand.
hopes that Aaron would check. button opens to 10K.
Paul Poix.
Yeah, notice Rob Young is in a million buy-in, yet doesn't have enough action, wants to bet on his ability to play quickly.
The guys come in disguise.
I was used to seeing Paul with his baseball caps on.
Both Young's King Jack and Sukernick's Queen 7 came along for the ride. Advantage Leon with middle pair here. And he's betting it, 15K.
Both his opponents have missed here. Paul does have position, a couple overcards.
Paul Poix, very successful in poker, though. It's almost like he's practically a professional, you know, with this. You know, he's up there in the money list.
Another 45K sliding into the pot. And the turn, the 4 of spades, doesn't change anything.
Well, now if you're Leon, you wonder. You got 2 calls on this flop. I still think this might be worth a bet. You know, get them off some straight draws or overcards, but he decides to check.
It's kind of a sign of giving up in a way.
That opens the door for Paul here in position. 78K up for grabs, Daniel.
Oh, here we go. Stupid adverts. Yeah, I think at that point, I can understand him maybe thinking, oh, maybe someone's got an 8, someone's got better. You know, you got 2 callers, but I think at that point, you still just got a battle there. Leon should have just, you know, he should have bet that. Where are we at? Okay.
Well, I mean, imagine Paul called this flop with a plan, and it looks like he plans to execute it, grabbing for some chips, contemplating whether or not this is a spot he can represent something and steal the pot, and it looks like he's going for it.
Gets through the King Jack. And how will Leon react?
Oh, 78,000. He bet 45,000. Yeah, that's a decent size.
He's the man that usually puts other people in tough spots.
And notice, if he would have bet here, he wouldn't be in this spot. But he decides to let go of it, and a nice pickup from Paul there.
He decides to bet, they probably both fold, Young and Poix.
No doubt about that.
And there you have it there. He's even
we owe a debt of gratitude.
Much more than earnings now from poker.
It's very slow.
Uh-oh.
So
Aces and
kings.
kings.
See whether or not Zhang can figure
Shit
out a
will
way
pop
to
off.
really get maximum value. And he's electing to 4-bet here.
This is when shit pops off, when you got aces versus
total.
kings. I've won a couple of these ones. I've lost a couple of these ones with kings.
If Zhang's not bluffing, what does he have? Ace, king, aces.
Even when it goes all in with aces, you don't feel fully confident your ace will hold, do you?
And that flops 7, 8, 9 with a couple of hearts. Very coordinated board.
Yeah, neither player is going to love this board, thinking that the other may have hit it. A lot of bad cards can come off on the turn, whether it's a 6 or a 10 or a jack, putting out a 4 straight.
Half pot size C-bet from Zhang gets flatted by Paul, who is proceeding with a great deal of caution, and this could be an action freezer on the turn as 4 to a straight show up.
Yeah, neither player is going to like that card. Imagine the action will slow here, but looks like Paul's grabbing for some chips.
Tough spot to be in with aces when you see that 8, 9, 7, 10.
K into roughly 400.
Yeah, so this bet is like a little bit, well, I'm representing something, but I'm also protecting my hand. I'm also finding out where you're at. And we have a non-believer in Zhang who's made the call.
And it's a very interesting call out of position by Zhang.
Check, check.
Given that another barrel on the end would really put those aces in a bind.
I wonder, did Paul know in his head he could be on aces?
Queens, I'm good.
I wonder what hand he had Adam Zhang on.
The question was whether or not he should bluff there. He chose not to.
And perhaps a wise choice, though we'll never know whether or not Aaron Zhang was going to call with the 2 aces if Paul would have fired big.
Okay.
Some weaker hands. He's got to have some strong hands in his range, so he's not easily
Tom Juan just limping in the cutoff. That's for all the limpers.
Vivek expressing gratitude for Zhang not having kicked him out of the pot with a raise, and for that matter, Dwan as well. Flop coming ace, deuce, deuce. Elton with the nut flush draw, and Dwan with the ace jack. Ace is up.
4.
So this is a spot where Tom could elect to check back. He decides to go ahead and bet. I'm not sure what he's hoping to get action from, maybe a flush draw. The danger here is you're up against the blind.
Yeah,
so
Tom Juan was one of the last people you think would limp right pre-flop.
They could have any 2 cards, and you see Zhang's check raise from 4 to 10,000 isn't exactly welcome sights.
And he hits his
for
flush.
Tom Dwan. He calls the extra 6. Now the
Still
4
dodgy when
on
you've
the
got
turn,
that
giving
potential.
Zhang the nut flush.
Your opponent could have a full house when you see that ace 2 2 4.
The nut flush was going to look to extract some value from Tom, who could be a tough fold here with ace jack.
You want to bet it.
Does not have a diamond in his hand. and is facing a 16K bet, exactly half pot.
And then you're in Tom's seat. You're thinking, okay, well, what do I beat? If he has a deuce, I'm behind. If he had 2 diamonds, I'm behind. So I only beat Elton if he's just
Yeah, it's tough to fold, I suppose, when you've got an ace, you've got top pair.
You know, making a random bluff.
Ah, now it's really tough to fold.
Problematic river for Dwan, as just in case Elton had him out kicked, he now has aces and jacks.
Well, right now, Tom can.
Tom has
ace
a feeling, you
four,
can tell
beat,
his reaction.
Ace queen, which is unlikely. He still can't beat a deuce or a flush, though. So, despite improving to aces and jacks, it really didn't change much in terms of his hand strength. It only affects him really beating ace 4, which is very unlikely for Elton to have here.
How often does Elton just have air in this spot?
Well, that's the real question, you know. If a player does have air, is he going to check raise flop, bet turn, and go for it on the river with the triple barrel? Tom believes no.
His pocket fives checking along with Zhang, who has ace-4 suited, and Orpin with a c-bet.
Pretty standard here for the pre-flop raiser to bet a dry board like that. Winfred's in a little bit of a tough spot here with, you know, the 5s, but he's not going to fold just because Orpin bet, because he also understands Orpin's going to bet with any 2 cards here. Interesting call raise, pardon me, from Zhang. Trying to represent the deuce. Wow.
Hero moves here.
Zhang played super aggressive.
Well, early on, we've seen Zhang show some real aggression. Earlier with the king 8 of hearts, 3-betting pre-flop, and now here, representing a deuce from the big blind.
Winfred hanging tough with his 5s, which are still good despite Zhang picking up a 4.
You know, this is a really strong read from Winfred to call a raise here with just 5s. He can't beat a 9, can't beat a deuce, obviously. He must have played with Zhang before and realized, you know what? This guy's capable of doing some frisky things.
And now a 3 on the end. Not a particularly complicated development for the 5s, and Winfred's reaching for chips after Zhang checked back on the turn and wants to bet this thing.
Well, yeah, it's a small bet. It's like a blocker bet. A little bit strange for him to bet here. He has just the hand to beat Zhang, who is contemplating here. But really, what can Zhang beat? When Winfred calls a flop bet, calls the raise.
I think Zhang kind of gave off reaction like he wasn't happy when the river card hit. There was a tell there if Winfred was looking, I think. But let's keep going ahead to some other hands though. What are we at?
Blind versus blind here with the action folded around.
Okay, let's skip a little bit ahead.
Oh, definitely troublesome. You know, we saw Chan play
True Teller's got the kings, baby.
There's a spot where he 3-bet to 30. You see that he is to 30,000. Kuznetsov has to like the sound of that.
Dwan releasing the queen jack off suit.
So now the question, if you're Kuznetsov out of position, is this a spot where you want to go ahead and 4-bet or just flat and slow play it?
Right.
Yeah. Looks like we have our answer as Kuznetsov wants additional chips inserted.
Yeah, and that's not the news you wanted to hear if you were Chan. Still plenty deep, in position with 10s. He could be up against an ace king. It is Kuznetsov. He's frisky. Could have a lot of hands. Top set. There we see a king. Wow.
Always beautiful when you get the kings. Get kings and you flop a king.
Enough given the pre-flop action, Daniel, for Kuznetsov to try to trap, but instead he's going to see that downsizing to 57K though in the process.
Yeah. So if you're Chan here and you put him on a range of hands at 4-bets, ace king's in there. So if it wasn't ace king, it's ace.
Your opponent sticks around, they'll call.
You can't beat queens. You can't beat jacks. Still, though, in position, it's worth 1 peel for such a small price that he was laid.
And that's exactly what Kuznetsov had in mind when he came with the 57K. Keeps his man in there as the board pairs on the turn. 321 plus in the middle. Now, what's the number on the turn for Timofey?
Well, here's where it's interesting. He could check. You know, he could check this back, let him catch up. If Chan hits a 10 on the river, we have fireworks. You have to ask yourself, if you have all the kings, what can your opponent really have that's going to call?
Very good point.
And if it's aces, it's probably going to bet. I'm surprised by this. I thought this is a spot where Kuznetsov might just decide to set the trap.
I agree. Check.
But
if
now
you check,
he's giving Chan a chance to get away.
Then you let your opponent hang himself.
To call.
Metaphorically.
With a potential third bullet on the end, and Liang way too good to get caught up in there. Releases
okay, let's get to this
which
one
is
here.
the best hand.
Oh, stupid adverts.
Welcome to Guru.
But yeah, £1 million buy-in. Gotta love the big tournaments like this. They're good to watch.
Dwan absolutely has to continue here. He has a open into straight.
Adams has got on a flush draw, ace high flush. Tom Dwan though, king jack.
And as you mentioned, Dwan needs to make something happen. His stack dwindling. He's going to elect to play this aggressively and go for the check raise on this flop.
Yeah, trying to make something happen to the tune of 48,000.
So now, interesting, if you're Adams, you know that Tom likely has a made hand. You have the ace high flush draw. Well, that means
fireworks.
Tom doesn't. Sure,
It's
Tom
gonna be
could have
fireworks.
Jack nine of spades or
And
something
Timothy
like that,
gets it.
which you'd love right now, as you've got the nut flush.
He runs so
Tough
well,
spot
doesn't
here
he?
for Dwan, because not only does he
He's
have
a main
straight
fixture
draw,
in the
he
high
has the
roller
king of
scene.
spades, which gives him a king high flush draw, which obviously we know wouldn't be any good.
93.
Not shying away. He bets 93,000.
So if you're Adams, the only question is, you know, do I raise now or continue to set the trap for the river? And against
Set
a
the
player
trap,
like
I think.
Dwan, I think it makes sense to just smooth call here and, you know, hopefully Dwan goes for a big bluff on the river and you can snap him off with the nuts.
A paired board would be the only problem for an ace-high flush.
If only there was a 9 or an ace.
Means Adams has the nuts as Dwan now checks.
So now if you're Dwan, right, you think, well, my opponent, you know, he's probably got a queen. Can I get him off that hand? And he decides no. He checks, and Adams goes pretty big here, 600,000, putting
Unlucky
Dwan essentially
Dwan.
all in.
Very
And
unlucky.
obviously, Dwan's not going to call.
Perhaps a glass of fresh squeeze?
Yeah, could be a spot where, you know, Dwan does open a lot of pots. He might feel like this is a good opportunity to just pick up what's there.
Ace
pre-flop,
jack, queen
he's gonna
jack,
re-raise
twos,
to
ace queen.
52.5.
Spot there. I imagine
I
Adams
like this.
will
I
fold.
think there are no
Kurganov,
real
he'll definitely
concerns
fold.
about Adams and Kurganov, and you're targeting Dwan.
Can't really fold ace
Hand
jack
here.
suited
Ace
though,
jack
can
of
you?
spades, and you know Dwan's a little bit frustrated right now. You have to imagine, you know, with the start that he's had, so it'd be hard to lay this down. You don't want to take a flop.
In goes 52 total. Out goes queen jack. And the duck soup.
So this could be trouble for Tom Dwan if the flop comes ace high.
Instead, it's queen high, but two spades as well as Kuznetsov flops top pair, top kicker against the nut flush draw.
Fireworks
Dwan's
will
in
ensue.
trouble.
The question is it going in on the flop or is it going in later? But the chips will be going in here. A 3-bet pot, you flop the nut flush draw. If you're Kuznetsov, you flop top pair, ace kicker. Nobody's going anywhere. All the chips will get in here, I would imagine.
But Dwan's not obligated to bloat this pot, right? You talked about how deep he is.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. But again, it is a 3-bet pot. He doesn't have to raise now. He could, you know, get frisky on the turn. I just don't see many scenarios where, you know, Tom doesn't get all his chips in here with the nut flush draw.
Let's see how he approaches things on the flop. It looks like a raise to 132.
Yeah, that's me saying, you know, hey, I'm Tom Dwan. I'm ready to go. Let's get it in. I would imagine Kuznetsov is very aware of the situation.
Now,
Asking for a count.
it's going to be a
Timothy.
flush draw, right? True Teller can't be worried about
Not
anything
much reason to
else.
just flat call here. He might as well
He
just
wouldn't have
stick it
pocket
in.
queens.
If he's ahead, great.
He probably wouldn't raise like that
What
with
can he
pocket
really
queens.
be behind? 2 kings? If Dwan decided to slow play it, unlikely. A set of sixes?
It would maybe kings.
Unlikely. So if I'm here with ace queen and I'm Kuznetsov,
No,
I like
not
the
sixes
situation.
or threes.
And I think
yeah,
that Dwan
it
kind of
goes
made
all
his
in.
statement given he was willing to put
Tommy
132
Dwan.
of what he had behind in on
He's
the
been
flop.
unlucky,
Timothy
hasn't
can
he,
rest
in
assured he's not
all
going
of
to
these
lose his
events.
customer. So the chips
that's
do
it.
get in.
Well,
Dwan
almost
does not
actually
hit
not.
the necessary spade on the turn and needs to see one here on the river if he's going to stay alive.
And he's
Instead, it's the 10 of diamonds.
That's unlucky.
And down goes
Just how it is.
Wow,
You
early
can run
exit
badly.
from the pro side.
He was
You know,
unlucky,
you gotta
though.
imagine
A lot of
the
bad
non-pros
hands.
will be excited to see Tom go. He's a threat to win.
I say
any
bad hands.
tournament
Hands
he
when he
wins.
was very
Whenever
unfortunate,
you're
you
in the
know.
room and you see a man walking around during non-break time,
Getting their flush on the
bad things have
turn
happened.
twice with
After
Raj
listening
Kumar
to
and
Simon
Adams.
Andrew Pan-
So he was unlucky. He was quite unlucky in that respect. I'm just going to stop that there, but that's just my first reaction video, something poker related. And, you know, it's very good. I really enjoyed following the tournament at the time. I was watching a lot of the Triton live streams, and you know, it didn't get any bigger than that. The £1 million buy-in with the Triton Million. It was really they do an excellent job with the Triton, the production and everything there. Commentary is really good, very informative. Yeah, but it was enjoy it, and I enjoyed it, and I might next time there might be a reaction to episode 2. Just wait and see. But that's me for now, guys. Feel free to like, hit the subscribe button. Give me your take. Let me know what your thoughts were on the poker, the Triton Million, and anything else you'd like me to react to, anything specifically poker related. Leave a comment and I'll see what I'm able to do there. But that's me for now, guys. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.